Hello and welcome to welcome to the New Geek channel. If you're new here, we build an inclusive space for people of all walks of life through the power of friendship, magic, and tabletop role-playing games. Tonight we have Investigation Check, our regular, irregular interview show where we dive into the lives of geeky creators to learn about their hobbies, passions, and the untold stories behind our favorite content. For tonight's episode, we have TTRPG performer, voice actor, marketing manager for Tabletop Tailspinners, and the neurospicy fae goddess herself, Yuri of Yuriandthebeast. Hello, Yuri. How you doing tonight?
Oh, hello. Super excited to be here. Honestly, I'm just excited to be here.
That's amazing. Besides all of those amazing things that you are already a part of, go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you, all the things you're doing.
Yes, absolutely. So y'all can go ahead and find me at Yuriandthebeast absolutely everywhere on the internet. Y'all can also go ahead and find me as a regular on the Raven Court at Somebody's Heroes. Gabriella, the Ravnos vampire over at Philly by Night. Y'all can go ahead and find me, oh my gosh, in a lot of places, honestly. I post everything on my threads. I am doing a lot of guesting and unfortunately a lot of recording for things that I just can't say yet. And it burns my tongue, but I can't say anything.
Well, I know I've seen you a bunch of places. You're doing awesome stuff. Your links are in the chat now for anyone who wants to go ahead and follow Yuri because she's amazing. That being said, are you ready to dive into tonight's episode?
I am so ready.
Give it to me. All right. So I need you to bring us back to little wee Yuri. What is your kind of like first introduction into the geek space? Is it a cartoon? Is it a comic? Is it a book? Talk to me.
It was anime, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, from anime and fantasy like Lord of the Rings. Reading was a huge thing for me when I was younger.
Okay.
And that is when I realized, like escapism, that's my jam. I went from anime to, there was light novels for animes to actual books. Found Lord of the Rings, found Aragon, found so many things. And from there is kind of where I fell into the tabletop space, actually.
So what was that kind of like first anime that you remember watching and being like, oh, this is a medium I like the way they tell stories? What was kind of that first one that really wet your tongue about it?
So in Mexican television on Sundays, instead of running normal cartoons, they ran anime.
Okay.
That was the thing. And so since I was really little, Sunday mornings was Pokemon, was Sailor Moon, was Saint Seiya, all of that type of thing. And that is really, I think, what drove me to stories and storytelling in general. When I was little, my sister was a little sister, so she was even littler. And there was a lot of things that she didn't understand when I started reading books. She would ask me to read them out loud for her because she couldn't read yet. And so that's kind of where the whole storytelling as a medium became very apparent to me. I was really little. Yeah.
Do you remember what that first anime was? Like, do you remember which one kind of like hooked you?
Oh, man. No, because I was so young and I grew up with so many of them. Yeah, I remember the first book series that did, and that was Lord of the Rings.
Okay. What age do you feel like you read Lord of the Rings?
I was honestly probably too young for it. Yeah, I was probably 6th grade in elementary.
Wow. Okay.
I was the librarian's favorite little kid because I would read all of the fat books that nobody else wanted to read. And I used to spend my recesses in the library, if you can picture that.
Wow. So what is it about the way anime, I want to touch back on that since that's kind of what you said was your first interaction. What do you feel like the way storytelling is done in anime, do you feel like it really resonated with you as this young child wanting to feel that escapism?
It was really just the anything is possible. That type of thing where, especially coming from like a place where you aren't really like heard or seen, especially as a young child. That whole I can be anything, I can do anything, and anything is possible, right? Of these characters doing things that normal people wouldn't be able to do. A lot of these characters, people wouldn't believe in them or whatever, and they prove everybody wrong, right? They work hard for it, and achieve what they want, and even more than that. So
Do you find yourself still drawn to the anime medium?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I am. Oh yeah. I never let that one go, for sure.
What kind of stories are you engaging with today?
Right now, I've definitely opened up to a lot of different types of stories. And part of that is because I realized how important different types of stories are.
Mhm.
I have different watch lists of recommendations, and they're all separated by like genre. And so
Okay.
I try to go around in a carousel. I think not only is it good for me, um, as like a person and that source of escapism, but it helps me as a storyteller to see all of these different kinds of stories being told.
Yeah. Is the one you're watching right now that's like, do you find really impactful?
I am actually rewatching one of my all-time favorites. It's called Bleach. It
Okay.
used to be considered one
Oh,
of
the
the
little
big
old one.
three anime. It was Naruto and Bleach, and Bleach was one of my all-time favorites. I
Yeah.
am currently rewatching that. It is very long, but the nostalgia helps you get
Yeah.
through it,
Yeah.
honestly.
What about Bleach kind of keeps bringing you back to it?
It is the fact that a lot of stories focus on like one character or one person.
Hmm.
And Bleach has so many larger than life characters. Even the side characters and characters you only see maybe 2 or 3 episodes out of the 366 of the main run
Hmm.
leave an impact, right? They have a pull to them. They draw you in, and it's one of those things where I watch it again and then notice things that I didn't notice the first time.
Yeah.
And that is such like a great thing in storytelling. And even if I sometimes don't like the main character, there are so many other characters in it that I do like and that I am drawn to and that I want to like watch
Yeah.
again. Right? And again, that like it's just really good storytelling.
So which character do you feel the most connected to, like on an emotional and storytelling level? I know
Oh man,
nothing.
that is
I've
such
never
a
seen
hard
Bleach.
question.
I've never seen Bleach.
Really? Okay.
So I know of Bleach, but I've never seen an episode. So I need to give me the expert opinion.
See, my favorite character in Bleach, I honestly have a couple, but they all have something in common, and it's that at the beginning, people think, is that a cat? I'm so sorry. He's like, oh shit, mom's busy. Hi, buddy. Is that at the beginning, the main group of characters who are these high school students
Hmm.
see them as villains, and through forced interaction, realize they are not the bad guys,
Okay.
right? And so it's that, and so all of them are a villain to some characters in the story and a hero to other characters in the story, and they are both at the same time. And that
Mhm.
is such like, I don't know, it's just such good character writing
Hmm.
to be able to like pull that off. And even you as a viewer seeing both sides, it's hard for you to decide like, okay, like do I think they're bad? But they have a point, and it's the villains that make you really like doubt just taking the heroes at their word,
Yeah.
right?
So
And
jumping forward a little bit.
that's my favorite.
Okay, I want
Yeah.
to jump forward a little bit. I don't want to ask then. Do you feel like that being the aspects you love the most about that story and the way that story is told, do you see yourself drawing that inspiration in the way you write characters and the way you write people that you tell the stories with?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every time I do a character, even if it's for a one shot,
Hmm.
right? I tend to try to make them as well rounded as I can. Again, even for a one shot, I sometimes even will take a character from these shows, from these books that I've read, and been like, I want this character to feel like X or like
Okay.
Y, right? And I will give them a different gender, a different name, whatever, a different job or whatever. But I pull from them all of the time, all of the time. And for longer campaigns, I definitely strive to make those types of characters where they are not just a flat, you know, 2D rendering of
Hmm.
something, but they feel whole. And you can tell that there is more to them than meets the eye. Like those types of vibes.
Okay.
Every single time.
Have you created a character that you feel like is amongst your favorite that has this multi-dimensional kind of aspect to them?
Yes.
Okay.
My uh latest one, and probably one of my all-time favorites now, with how things are going. You have come to meet her recently, is Morwen Senature from uh, Somebody's Heroes. Yeah.
We haven't met officially.
Yeah, but you know of her. You know, as
Uh-huh.
everybody does. But Morwen started off as me just wanting to play a morally dark character because I've been reading too many romances
Okay.
and I was digging the vibe. And I wanted somebody who, when people looked at her and were like, hey, she's a villain, look at this, somebody could genuinely look at you in the face and say, no, she is misunderstood and let me tell you why, and have valid arguments for that. And I made her to be this person who ultimately wants to do good,
Hmm.
but the means to get there are very muddled and not deviated. But to her, the ends justify the means.
Okay. I'm gonna leave the Morrowind stuff alone because I don't want to give spoilers and stuff like that. So I'm gonna move on from any questions I have about that person. And
Great though.
let's go back in time a little bit here. So you said Lord of the Rings was kind of like the first novel that you really dived into and feel like you connected with on a geek level, right?
Mhm.
So what about that story do you feel like was the biggest draw for you in the way you tell stories now?
You don't need your characters to be larger than life, your setting to be larger than life, to tell a larger than life story.
Wow, that I
This
want to say that is
is
a beautiful sentence. That was
Thank you.
amazing.
The thing
Wow.
about Lord of the Rings is that, yes, there is magic,
Yeah.
right? But how many people in the story had magic? Gandalf had magic.
Hmm.
What about the rest of them? They were, in D&D terms, just a ranger and a fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were still able to do this great thing, right? This story that is considered an epic as far as storytelling goes, right? And something that has been for so many people a sort of guiding stone when thinking about fantasy,
Hmm.
right? But when you think fantasy, a lot of people think, like in D&D, everybody has magic and it's all over the place, but you don't need that in your setting or in your characters to be able to tell a story that feels fantastical or feels epic.
Need to clip that. and make a reel of that because that was such a perfect sentence to describe what Lord of the Rings is. Moving on. Do you feel like, how do you feel like that kind of affects you now then? Do you, because I know we all know Morrowind, she's a very high magic person, correct?
Oh yeah.
And that has been one of your favorite characters, like you said, that you've created.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find Morrowind to be the exception, or do you find her to be the rule when you're creating characters as far as like fantastical stories are told?
She has really been the exception, and I think that's why I enjoy playing her so much.
Okay.
Because most of my characters that I play in anything tend to be pretty normal people
Okay.
with just something, either in their background or in their abilities that they can do, or in their personality. And Morwen is the only character that when I started playing her, she started off level 10 as basically the leader of a nation, and with a whole bunch of extra things that let her not die, which we won't get too much into, and with a very solid goal and the means to bring it about.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so Morwen's story, since like her vignette, since before she was part of this group of people, has been fantastical in a sense, or larger than life, because she has made it so. She is a person who is, I am not okay with just living a normal life.
Mhm.
And that has been her thing her entire life. And it's definitely been the exception to a lot of the characters that I create. But oh, it's been so much fun.
Yeah. So, oh, I don't want to X this. The characters you've typically made have been more, maybe mundane is the word to use, as far as like the fantastical systems that we play in. What draws you typically to that kind of storytelling? Is it because of Lord of the Rings, or is it because of just the desire to play in a fantastical space as a person?
Yes, I think definitely something to be said about being underestimated and proving people wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There is something to be said about being in a fantastical setting while being not fantastical and still being able to achieve fantastical things.
What makes you want to
There
tell that
is
story? I want to cut you off here because that's a point I really want to dig into here. What about that is a story you enjoy telling?
Really helps me tell people, I think, like, anybody can do fantastical things.
Mhm.
Anybody can do great things, right? Where you don't have to inherently have these talents to set out and to learn how to do these things, or to find a way around them and use your brain. I think it's the fact that it's relatable and it's easy for people and for myself to see in those characters, right? To see ourselves in those characters.
Mhm.
And it's that whole, sometimes I find myself like asking, well, what would I do if I was in that situation? Right? And I hope that informs some of my character choices sometimes. And it still fits because that's just the way I've made them.
Yeah.
Right. And it's that whole, like, a lot of people put a little bit of themselves into their characters, and I do too a lot of the time, but I also like to explore like different kinds of people. But I love just, I think, the thinking about the way people's brains work and why we do the things that we do. And so I'll model characters after my friends in real life and things like that. And it's like, well, what would they do? And I think that is so fun, is putting these seemingly normal people into all of these fantastical settings. And eventually they find a magic item or something that gives them magic and all of these things, because that is the point of all of these stories, right? But I can do that while still kind of exploring the human condition in a sense.
I love that. I think that's one of the things that really lends to you being such a great storyteller in the characters you create, is because you do take these experiences and this real desire to try and like tell that story in a realistic way. So I know I'm just gonna move on because people hate compliments. So we move on from Lord of the Rings and your kind of like introduction into reading and finding these much grander stories. At what point do we kind of start to slide into the tabletop space?
In high school,
Okay.
I was in the library as I spent entirely too much of my teenage years in, and I found a book, which was a lit RPG. And
Sorry.
yeah.
Yo, it was lit.
But it basically, now years ahead, I know it was just somebody who played a Dungeons and Dragons campaign and decided to write it up like a story and publish it.
Okay.
But I didn't know that back then.
Yeah.
And next to the literary RPGs were some Dungeons and Dragons books, right? And I come from a very small town in the middle of nowhere. So there was only one, and it was like the player's handbook, and it was all torn and battered, and it was edition, honestly, I can't even remember. It was so old. And that's that kind of when I asked about it, and they were like, yeah, like this is a game, this, and that. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever, because it's like, hey, there's not only can I read these stories, but I can and kind of put myself in them in my head, but I can make a story or be part of one for real, right? And you know, to me, like I used to love those choose your own adventure books. And so it felt like that, and it was so exciting to me. And that's kind of like the first time I saw one. And I was already in high school. I think my freshman year was one. Yeah,
So,
I didn't get to play for a good while after that, though.
I was gonna say, were you playing or role or DMing that game?
So I found the book. I found people who already knew about it, who had a game going. I now recognized the name, you know, the little logo, and so when you know what you're looking for, it's a little bit easier. But they were again, very small farming town in the middle of nowhere. It was just men.
Yeah,
And
I assumed.
yeah, so it was just white men, and there's this little Mexican. I'm 5 foot, by the way. I've been 5 foot since like middle school. So there's like this little Mexican girl just saying, "Hey, can I play with you?" Obviously no. that was not a thing. And I had, in such a small place, I had such a hard time finding people to play.
Okay.
And I went, and it was always like no, for a whole bunch of different reasons that like not naming, right? And I got really fed up. That's a thing about me, is like, well, I want to, so I will. And so I decided, well, if you're not gonna let me play at your table, I'm gonna make my own fucking table, because fuck you,
Yeah.
essentially. And so I talked a couple of friends into it who were
Okay.
like super skeptical, and I was like, please, please, I will owe you a bajillion favors, but please, please, please. And so I talked a couple of friends into it, and my first ever TTRPG experience, my first ever D&D game, was me attempting to DM
Yeesh.
my hesitant friends.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And it was like, well, I'm gonna DM my own story. And from there, I was a forever DM for years.
Really? Okay.
Yes. It started off with that. They were like, this isn't too bad. What happens next?
Mhm.
And it devolved into a 2-year campaign. I
Wow.
had other friends jump in. We did one shots, and everybody was too scared of DMing, right? It's a scary thing for a
Hmm.
lot of people, especially if you're not like, a public speaking type of person.
Yeah.
Uh, and and so I was content to DM. Honestly, it was fun for me. I None of them were readers like I was, and so I would take a lot of the stories from books and characters to use them as NPCs and all sorts of things. I didn't the only book I had was the player's handbook.
Wow.
I didn't know anything about the world of D&D. I didn't
Uh-huh.
even know there was a world of
Right.
D&D, right? Like Eberron and that Baldur's Gate and all of these places. And so everything from the beginning was homebrew because I
Okay.
didn't know there was anything else.
Hmm.
And that was me forever DMing for years until
Wow.
I moved away. I moved to LA for college.
Okay.
Yeah. That was, I
So
think, the first time I got to be a player.
I was gonna say, is that when you first got to get into the player's seat and like really? Do you remember your first character?
As a player?
Yeah.
Yes.
What was that experience
Um,
like being a forever DM and being able to really play that first character? Like, what went into that first character? What was the motivation behind it?
it was honestly, I had been a DM for so long that when I was invited, one of my friends was, "Hey, like I'll run a one shot for us." We were going camping, and it was a Pathfinder one shot
Oh, well.
because he wanted to show me, "Hey, there are other
Yeah.
ETRPGs out there. Check this one out. You're gonna get it right away if you play D&D." And we were in college. I was the vice president of the television and film club at the university, and so they were all like film nerds,
Mm,
and they had equipment. And so we went camping, and I was like, this is gonna be a normal camping trip.
yeah.
We show up, and they had the white foldable tables set out with chairs with like the floodlights in different colors and all sorts of things. And I was like, damn, bro, you're going all out. Um,
Coming from someone who only has
and
ever played with a player's handbook.
yeah, just on some notebook paper, and that was it. I was like, okay, people out here really be taking this seriously. And we waited until the middle of the night, and we all sat around the table in the darkness in the middle of a forest with like the floodlights. And
That's
he had a
wild.
little uh tech. They were so good with tech. I was never good with any of that. Yeah. And I was a business major. I was there to keep shit like flowing, you know? And he would change the lights and stuff. And we meet our characters together because a lot of the other people had never played Pathfinder before either. And my
Okay.
first sort of thing was to wait for everybody to make their characters and fill in the gap.
Yeah. That's
That was kind
forever
of,
GM 101.
yeah, I wanted to fill in the gap for them because I was so, even though I wasn't in the DMC, it was so ingrained in me at that point to make sure that everybody was having a good time.
Yeah.
And I had a great time.
Right.
Honestly. And it was still very fun for me. But part of the fun for me was seeing everybody also having a good time
Yeah.
because that's just DM brain. And
Yeah.
now I can shut it off,
Okay.
and be like, this is what I want to do. Fuck the rest of you. But then I didn't think anything of it. That was just my first inclination.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
That hits real close to home.
Yeah.
That conversion is real.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Honestly, it really, really is.
So you finally get to play in this game. Harley, I love you, but I can't throw the squiddy right now. You get to play in this first game. Where do we go from there? Like, do you pretty much step back from DMing totally and just kind of dive into playing? Okay, because I'm unaware of you DMing any games in the AP space, so At what point does
I
that
don't
shift
think
happen?
you couldn't pay me to never DM again.
Okay, cool.
You really couldn't. And I think it's because I've spent so much time doing it, and I realized a lot through it. It honestly, this is gonna sound super unrelated, but as I did like management and things like that, DMing sometimes can feel like trying to corral kittens.
Yep.
And so much of those skills translate so well to being in charge of people just in general. And it's helped me out so much in my life. And you really couldn't pay me to not do it. I started letting friends, asking them more like it. Like, hey, do you want to try DMing? Like one shots, things like this. And I'd be in the player seat. But I still mostly DM'd for a very, very long time until I got to the AP space.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of walk me there then. How do we go from playing a game in the woods for the first time to finally deciding to turn on a camera and be a part of the community in that sense?
That friend who showed me Pathfinder showed me a couple of other TTRPGs. And you're talking now, it's 2016, 2017, right? When he asked me, hey, have you seen X? It's an AP group. I asked him, what's that? And I didn't even know that this was a thing. That people recorded themselves playing games and other people watched it. And it was just like a eye-opening thing. And now all of these other systems that I had only read and didn't feel comfortable, being a game master for, I could watch somebody else do it first and then, get the hang of it, or get story ideas, or just see what kind of stories people came up with, right? Because now you're not talking reading a book that came from the brain of one person, but you're talking about listening to and watching this story that is made up in the moment by 5 or 6 people at the same time all together, and that is, collaborative storytelling is just so different. And so I found APs, and it was Dimension 20 and Critical Role, High Rollers, and I deep dove into this. I put aside my anime brain for a while because I just dove into them so hard.
Yeah.
And again, it was years before it even occurred to me that I could do something similar.
Okay.
This was like watching a movie. Oh, those are movie actors, right? Like, I can't just go and act in a movie, like, which being in the entertainment industry should have already like pinged for me, like, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Just grab your friends and go film something, right? You do it all the time. Like, why would this be different?
Right.
But it just felt so different. And I watched them for years, still using them as a resource for my DMing.
Right.
And last year, around May of last year, I found on a Facebook group that is Dungeons & Dragons Los Angeles. People use it to find in-person tables all of the time. I saw somebody share something, and it said, hey, this isn't from me, but I saw this on the internet, and I thought, I would share it to this group because we're all into like TTRPGs. And it was a casting call for Roll D5.
Okay. And that's how we get to here.
And that's how we get here. That was May 2024.
Holy crap.
I had I owned a really shitty webcam.
Yeah.
I did not have a mic. I had like a headset, right? Cause I'm a gamer. I used to stream like gaming stuff.
Okay, so you did do streaming
But
before actually joining APs.
yes,
Okay.
I did like League of Legends, World of Warcraft, just gamer stuff that I stopped doing that a long time ago. Maybe I'll pick it up again. But yeah, I saw that for Roll D5 and I was kind of like, I mean, I don't lose anything by filling out the Google form.
Right.
Honestly, worst case scenario, everything stays as it is.
Yeah.
I don't do it and I keep playing my games with my friends, right? Like nothing bad comes out of it. And so I filled it out and then got an email. And they were like, hey, like, this is the game. Here it is. This, and that. And I was like, oh shit. Oh shit. And so my very first AP, like doing role playing on camera, was for the Covenant Crucible one shot in May of 2024 for Roll D5.
Wow.
And it snowballed
I was gonna say that.
so stinking hard from there.
That got big quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it did. It really snowballed. And it's so weird to think about it now because it feels to me like I've been in this shit for years.
Uh-huh.
It really does feel like it's been forever. And then I quantify it that way, like, no, it hasn't even been 1 year yet.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
just so weird to think about.
So
Yeah.
so how have you found the journey then? Because like that, you really hit the ground running. What have you feel like has been maybe like a hurdle or an obstacle that you feel like you didn't understand when you first got into the space, especially like the AP space, because it can be very tricky to navigate on a socio level.
Yeah.
What have you kind of like found to be like some of the hurdles you've had to navigate?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing was that initial, I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And I was so nervous the whole time. My gosh, I did public speaking for a living for years,
Uh-huh.
right? 200, 500 people. But it's been very, very seldom that I've been that genuinely nervous.
Uh-huh.
Right. And I think it was the fact that I knew this is being recorded for posterity.
Yeah.
If you mess up on a live speech, honestly, like a couple days from now, nobody even remembers it, right? They remember the gist of what you said, but
Right.
that's it. Whereas something like this, it's recorded. People can go back and watch it. People can analyze you. And as somebody who is just like very self-conscious, I think, especially of like, I think more so of like physical appearance and things like that were already kind of hard for me, was just such a weird thing to get over.
Okay.
And there was so many people too, as soon as I decided I want to do this again, and looking people up online, following a whole bunch of accounts, like I couldn't get enough of it, very quickly. And I felt so underqualified for these people that have DM'd for a D&D in a castle. These people that literally, they were the ones who started these channels, right? People who have been doing this for years. And it was really that imposter syndrome of like, I shouldn't be here, right?
Okay.
And I think I got very lucky in coming into APs because I fell into a very, very supportive crowd, a very supportive corner of the community right away, right? And so I think I was definitely luckier than most in that sense, where I right away kind of hit it off with a couple of people And I was like, if we weren't like face to face, I would genuinely be friends with you guys, type of deal.
Uh-huh.
And I found that kind of sense of community and support very, very quickly after starting. And I think that that is something that I don't take it for granted at all. I love all of my friends that I've made in the TTRPG space. I will heart, shout out, repost everything they ever do because they're amazing, and because I wouldn't be doing any of this. I wouldn't be right here with you if it wasn't for them.
Yeah.
And so I did get very lucky and didn't have to go through a lot of those hurdles myself because of that.
Okay. So you are kind of like in this wonderful position where you, as far as I'm aware, you don't have a channel to yourself. Okay. So you're in this wonderful position where you're just like everywhere, it seems like right now. Like you are appearing on every channel, telling these stories. What has been the best part of having that freedom to just kind of like appear everywhere? What's kind of like, what has been fun about that for you in this moment?
Oh man. Not having the responsibility of running a channel, of having to edit, of having to do the scheduling, of really like the kind of backstage work that you and everybody who has their own mediums has to deal with and has to do on top of the actual doing it, right? And content has given me so much freedom to play, to be a part of more stories than I would be able to be otherwise.
Mhm.
And that's part of what has allowed me to really kind of blossom in this space, is that I can be in as many stories and in as many channels as I want to be.
Yeah.
Right. And if I did have my own channel with everything that goes into, because it's a lot of work, it really, really is, I wouldn't have that freedom to do that. And it's, oh man, I'm call it an AP nomad, and I tell people I will collect channels and people like Pokemon. It has allowed me to make friendships, to meet so many people. Not just like in networking in the space, but like genuine friendships
Mhm.
where we will talk outside of it and play video games together and all sorts of things that, again, I wouldn't have probably been able to do, or it would have been a much slower process had I had my own channel.
Yeah. So is there the intention for you to ever decide to like, hey, I want to settle down on a channel? And obviously you'll still play everywhere, but is there the intention for you to be like, this is my story I'm going to tell on my channel? Because I'm sure there's people who have approached you to tell stories on their channels before.
Yeah, I've thought about it, because as much as I love one shots,
Mm-hmm.
the craving to DM a campaign
Mm-hmm.
is so strong.
Oh, I'm
And
gonna
it's
message
hard
you
for me
so
to
hard
do
after this
that.
game review. I'm gonna
And
fucking.
it's hard
Ooh.
to, a lot of other channels, again, I'm new to the space, and they have established people who DM for them and who do all of these things. And so it's kind of something it's hard for me to be like, hey, like, trust me on this, right? I'm gonna do my best, like, trust me on this. And
Yeah.
then that's hard, right? Not just for me, but for the other party involved too, because it's their channel, right? If I mess up, it paints an image on them as well. Everything I do is reflected to them. And so I have thought of maybe starting my own channel, right? I don't think, if I ever do it, I don't think it would be soon.
Okay.
That's for sure. I think I definitely uh, have been learning so many new systems
Mm-hmm.
and really being able to engage with the community that I've made here in the TTRPG space, through being able to like hop on all of these different channels and games and genres. And I do think I want to keep doing that for a little longer
Yeah.
before I settle. Maybe I'll bully somebody into letting me DM a mini campaign. We'll see.
What
Before
part
that.
of, oh, please, Yuri, don't bully me, is I'm
Oh no.
please, no, don't tell stories on my channel. um, okay, so I want to know before we kind of get ready to wrap up here, is that there been a system that is really like knocking at your door to like tell a story in that you just are chomping at the bit for?
Yes.
Okay.
I have been, because of everything I already told you, when I discovered that there was a Lord of the Rings TTRPG.
Okay.
You should have seen this coming. But I haven't been able to play or run a One Ring
Okay.
game, and I have the book and I've read through it 15 times cover to cover. Uh, but I haven't been able to play in it, and I really, really, really do want to.
Have you read the D&D supplement for Lord of the Rings?
Yes, I've read the D&D supplement, and then I have the separate system.
Yeah.
for the One
Which
Ring
one do you
as
think
well.
is kind of more representative of, that's a hard word, of what that story tells, and which one do you think kind of fits it better?
Definitely the One Ring. So
Okay.
the system that was made for it. I think I've run Lord of the Rings adjacent
Yeah.
one shots on D&D. I've run everything adjacent one shots on D&D, homebrewed the shit out of it.
Yeah.
And can it be done? Yes, absolutely. And the supplement, I think, does a great job for people that want a game in that setting and want to get that feel of that kind of story, but only play D&D or only really know D&D, which honestly is a very large section
Right.
of the TTRPG community, right? That is, D&D is usually like the gateway to everything else. And it does the job that it sets out to do. It
Okay.
definitely does. But as somebody now who has seen so many different systems and knows that, you don't have to homebrew everything into D&D, and seeing it from that perspective, the One Ring TTRPG definitely hits it closer to home
Okay.
as far as like the types of stories that are, more like are better told in that setting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know nothing about the One Ring system, so can you give me like the elevator pitch into why you feel like it's able to tell that story better? Besides, it's built around the setting.
Here, I think the biggest thing is how it deals with magic.
Okay.
Right? Like I said earlier, like the Middle Earth, did it have magic before? Yes, absolutely. But a story in Middle Earth isn't about that.
Right.
And the way that D&D handles magic is very, even if you play in a low magic D&D setting, the way it handles it is so at its core different that I think that is the single biggest change that for me shifts the entirety of how the story as a whole is told and why it hits a little bit closer to home. It's just how they handle magic.
Okay. All right. I think that we're getting ready to wrap up here, so I'm going to bring you over to our last two questions. So I want to know, has there been kind of a pivotal moment or a turning point in your career in the space that has kind of shaped the way you approach content creation?
Yes. And it actually was very recent.
Okay.
Which honestly, not surprising, just like from how long I've been in the space to
How
begin
much
with.
is not recent?
It's all recent. But PAX U was, I've been to a lot of conventions as a cosplayer, right? Anime Expo, WonderCon, all sorts of things. I have never been in a space that was dedicated for a tabletop ever. That was my first time. And going there and experiencing the amount of community, the bubble of TTRPGs is so much larger than I thought it was, right? Its prevalence, its reach, and it just really opened my eyes. But what changed the way now that I'm going to go about handling myself now as a AP performer going forward was actually an incident the first night of PAX in the lobby of the hotel where we were all just going and hanging out and drinking. Because a little someone, well, not little someone, I'm little, short, but a certain someone who I am totally not looking at right now came up to me and said, "Hey, you probably don't know who I am, but I think you're awesome."
Jesus Christ.
And I know you had some drinks and I had some drinks, but that was, to me, to somebody who, again, my biggest struggle was that imposter syndrome and that I shouldn't be here feeling, and there are so many people that now I look up to in this space, right? And in my first night of my first time ever being physically in that community, with that community, having somebody now, you come up to me and say that to me was paradigm shifting.
Yeah.
It really, really was. And so that really did it for me. I did, honestly, I did get something similar a couple of times throughout the con the next couple of days.
Right.
But
I was the
you were
first.
the first one. And it was, we weren't even at the con. We were, across the street from it at a hotel bar, right? And so that matters too. but yeah, that definitely, like I said, it was paradigm shifting. The way now I see myself and everything I've done, and now everything I want to do, I have, really started putting more thought into what I want to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, so thank you for that.
So I don't typically talk about myself during these interviews because this is your story to tell. But that really means a lot to me, because the whole kind of point of these interviews is being able to tell the stories of amazing creators that I think are just so awesome. And I don't mean to sound this is like self-defeating or whatever like that, but I haven't really had that experience yet, and I've been in the space for 2+ years now. I've never had that experience. So being able to go out and like show people, no matter how big or small they are, like, you're doing awesome work, this is a space you should be in, that I was able to be the first person for you in that is just so awesome for me, because I love being able to share the stories of other creators, and it means a lot to me, and I really appreciate that was kind of like your first, recognizing moment that was me, because you're doing amazing work. And I love that you're doing amazing work. And I think everyone should be able to see all the amazing work you're doing. And I said amazing a lot in that sentence, but I don't fucking care. This is my show. I do what the fuck I want.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know how to deal with compliments.
I know. No one does. It's always awkward.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's fine. It's fine.
All right. Let's move on to our last question then. What message or impact do you hope to leave through your content in the geek space?
Really, I think it would be to go for it, to do it, to say yes to everything and anything that you think is interesting, that you think is fun, that you think you would enjoy. Even if you've never done it before, even if you have no idea how to do it. Nobody was born knowing how to do anything. And the same way they,
poop.
like the people doing it learned, except poop. We were all born knowing how to
We
do
all knew that one.
But everybody had to learn.
Hmm.
And the same way that the people in doing that thing learned and did it, so will you. And nobody is going to give you shit for not knowing your first time around. And you might be surprised that there might be people who will offer up a hand and help you out. But don't let not knowing stop you from doing something that you want to do, even if it's just to try it out, because
Yeah.
you never know, it might consume your existence 6 months later, and you do it 4 times a week now, you know.
Amazing. Oh my God, Yuri, this has been such an absolute pleasure for me. I'm so glad I was able to get you on the channel and get this interview in, because like I said, I feel like you blew up on the space. I didn't even realize it's only been 6 months. I just remember seeing you and then seeing you everywhere. So it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to have this conversation with you. We are going to open up the chat to viewer questions. So if you have any questions for Yuri that we haven't covered or here, or you just want to dive a little bit deeper on, shoot them in the chat. We're going to get to all the questions as long as they're appropriate for Yuri tonight. We were talking about tentacle fucking porn, like when I fucking talked to tabletop.
Don't tempt me with a good time, okay?
Listen, this interview can get off the rails, but I have to do my best to not get crazy. We've all seen me on a Friday night at the Marriott. We know how Joe gets.
Honestly, samesies. And there's picture proof out there somewhere. It's terrifying.
I was on a knee in front of Grace for about 20 minutes while she folded an origami dragon for me.
Oh my god.
I'm old. I can't do it.
Yeah, I think we were walking back to the car and I threatened to just like sit down on the sidewalk and not move because my feet hurt and the car was too far. I was like, no, leave me here. I'm gonna sit down.
We've gone too far. I'm done. Sacrifice me to the elder gods.
Oh man, that was a good time. Also, for sure, that is gonna be a yearly thing for me.
Oh yeah,
there's
PAX is
no way in
phenomenal.
hell I am not going to PAX U this year.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, already booking my hotel. Why not? Let's get it in early.
So while those viewer questions come in, and again, type those questions in the chat. We're gonna get to them. We're going to switch over to Dicey Questions segment. This is 20 random questions determined by a dice roll. They're just fucking banana questions. No rhyme or reason to why they're there, but we're going to do them. So go ahead and roll me a d20.
Rolling. That is a 9.
All right. I feel like this is obvious. If you have to live in a fantasy world, what would you choose?
Oh. I see, that's the thing. If you told me like Middle Earth, it depends at what point in its history, because that wasn't a very good place to live at some point. But probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably Middle Earth, yeah.
Do you have a specific time period where you really like, this is like what I vibe most with the storytelling?
Honestly, not even to do with like storytelling, but a hobbit during like 3/4 of their existence, you know?
Okay. The hobbits had it good, is what you're saying.
Yeah, the hobbits had it real good most of the time. Honestly, it was great.
Yeah.
I would have loved to. Absolutely.
So which species would you want to be during there? In
hobbit.
There? A hobbit.
Yeah. Yeah, probably they had it real good.
Yeah.
They really did. Like, you got breakfast, second breakfast, 11Z's.
What is your preferred meal as a hobbit? Which one do you feel like you're having the most fun with?
Oh my gosh. I'd probably have a lot of fun with tea time.
Tea time.
Because I would grow my own like herbs and I'd have like 20 different kinds of tea plants in in
I love
my
this.
garden or whatever. And then people or like other hobbits would like, tear down my door to be invited to my tea time because it'd be immaculate. I'd get honey, like infused with like lavender and all like orange blossoms and all sorts of things. It'd be great. I'd invite you.
No, don't threaten me with a good time.
What would you be?
Oh God. Probably not alive, because I don't think I'd survive.
Why?
Just call it spade a spade here. I'm too dumb to
man.
survive Middle Earth.
I don't know, dwarves, hobbits, like
I
they
would
didn't
probably
have
want to be a
as
dwarf.
many.
I feel like I feel like dwarf makes the most sense for me because it's just dumb as rocks.
No. Oh my god. I'm gonna not even deign that with a response, okay?
Because I insulted the dwarves. I get it.
Oh no.
All right, roll me another
I'm gonna
d20.
get in trouble. I'm gonna get in trouble. See that. 15.
Okay. What is your favorite movie or TV genre?
Oh,
You can take this any way you want, be as broad or specific as you want. What, like, when you're sitting down to watch a movie, like your favorite movies, what genre are they typically?
I can tell you what I don't like.
Okay. That's
So-
equally as good.
I think like action movies, because 90% of the time it's action for the sake of action.
Uh-huh.
There is no real story or depth to it. Or like zombie movies, it's usually the same thing, just them surviving, but there isn't depth to most of it. So things like that where it's just for the sake of
Showing
itself.
something, spectacle.
Exactly, just for the sake of spectacle. I do love mysteries, thrillers, horror movies only when they're done well, which
Yeah.
again, a lot of the times it'll be like jump scares for the sake
Right.
of it, and then that's not my vibe. But dramas, again, it's just because storytelling.
Mhm.
But anything that's just for the sake of itself,
Yeah.
or just for the sake of shock value, or just for the sake of that's kind of, I get bored very quickly,
Okay.
and I will just stop a movie halfway through.
Oh my
and-
God.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can't.
That hurt me on an emotional level. I can't describe. Just stopping a movie halfway through. That movie has to be. I have watched Morbius
So many
all the way
bad
through.
movies.
I have done the full Morb just
Oh,
because I can't
no.
finish. I can't not finish a movie.
Really?
Oh.
Oh man, that took me a while. I started with books. I wasn't able to not finish one,
Yeah.
even if it was awful.
Yeah.
And I started with that, like not feeling guilty over putting it down, because it's my time, and my time should be spent doing things I enjoy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing I've been telling myself. Does the Marie Kondo, does this bring me joy?
Yes.
Honestly, not right now. Then why am I still doing
Fuck
it?
this book.
Right? And so I've started feeling a lot less guilty about doing things like that, but it's
Uh-huh.
definitely been a little bit of growth. Also, I just want to point this out. Somebody in chat said, "Oh, the best meal as a hobbit, the next one." And honestly, I should have thought of that. That is clever. That is good. And I am
That is now your
so
official
sad
answer.
that I did that. I'm changing my answer. That is my official answer. We're gonna pretend I said that, okay?
I'll edit it back.
Thank you.
All right, give me one more D20 roll, then we'll switch over to our question, and then we're gonna wrap for tonight. Unless if
Love
you
it.
guys have questions until we finish tonight's episode, you can put in any questions you have in the chat. We'll get to all of them.
19.
Oh, this is a great question. Something you have created that you're really proud of. It can be anything.
My first homebrew world because again, it was before I knew that there was anything else.
Mm-hmm.
This was, I, God, I have binders, plural, 3-inch binders, okay, on this. And it's because I was so obsessed of making it feel lived in and making sure that like my friends, my players could do whatever they wanted to in it. And now I don't do that much prep because it's a
Right.
lot of like, I'm a lot better at improvising, but back then I really like all the major NPCs had it was color coded. I had dividers, it was highlighted. If a page got messy or I wanted to fit more things in, I would rewrite the page and put it back in. And so it is one of like the things I am the most proud of is probably honestly the binders. And it has so much of me, of my friends, of all the books and every media that I consumed during that time when I had just discovered all of this. And now it's I thought I was being subtle. It's super apparent what I'm ripping off, right?
Right.
But no, we're not going to talk about that.
No, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Job's number one,
But
DM's number one skill is stealing.
oh yeah, got to do it well. But I am so proud of that. And at the end of it, I know I did a good job because during the last sessions that we had, the players didn't realize it was the last session. But when we were, we had won a big battle and it's like everybody feels it coming. Like, this is it. We won.
Yeah.
It's over. And like, we all cried. And everybody cried. And then they asked me to please do an epilogue, like, because they wanted to see, they didn't even want to do it themselves. They was like, hey, Yuri, what is my character doing now?
Yeah.
What did they do after the war? And I'm like, it's your character. You tell me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they wanted me to tell them. And so I sat everybody down and it was like, I was just, telling us stories to some children, essentially, where I went through each of the characters and what everybody's doing now. They started asking me about the major NPCs and what are they doing?
Yeah.
What happened with this? And it was the fact that they had been as involved as I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I have that binder.
Yeah.
It's there. I am actually, wink wink nudge nudge, working on turning it into a lit RPG.
No way.
I'm gonna change a lot of the names of
Yeah.
the places and the people because it was really obvious. So with a whole bunch of tweaking, but the gist of the adventure, I do want to kind of memorialize it somehow.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
awesome.
I am, it's honestly, I don't think I've ever mentioned it like live before or on camera because it's something that takes years to do.
Yeah.
The writing, the proofreading,
Yeah,
the editing,
100%.
and so we're not going to see it for another year
Right.
or, maybe a little more. But that is the proudest thing. And then hopefully when I'm done with that book will become the proudest thing.
Yeah. That's fucking awesome. What's the name of the world? Can you share that with us?
Huh?
What was the name of the world?
I ripped it off.
Okay.
I ripped it off of High Rollers because that was, I think, the very first AP I ever saw.
Okay.
And so the world called Aroas.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, this is great. This is such a good interview. Like, there's a few interviews where I come away like feeling like this was such a good interview. You're up there in my top.
You're such a good interviewer.
Thank you. Let's see. We've got one question as far as I'm aware, from Aikapa. That person. Was there a specific moment when you were DMing that you knew it was something you wanted to keep doing? And was there a moment in DMing where you really felt like giving up? And if so, how did you get over it? That's a great question.
Oh. Yeah. I'm gonna answer the second question first because it happened first. After that very first session, I thought maybe like those people that rejected me from their tables and everything, like maybe they were right. This
Mhm.
was harder than I thought it was going to be. And I honestly, having never actually seen somebody DM before, didn't think I did a good job. And I was like, this is not what I imagined it was going to be. Like, oh, maybe I focused too much on like me having fun. And it's like, they probably didn't have fun. They're just saying that they did because they're my friends and I roped them into this
Right.
and they don't want to make me feel bad. And so I almost gave up as soon as I started. Yeah. Um, but I didn't, and I'm really glad I didn't. As
Was
for
was
that
there any?
first
Well, I want to let me
question,
just ask real
yeah.
quick. Was there anything that like, because this was part of the question, was there anything that made you want to continue on, or was it just sheer fucking force of will? Like, fuck it, I'm gonna keep doing this thing.
Asked me the following week, like, hey, when are we gonna like finish like the adventure?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was just like they're my friends. They know I really wanted they know I really wanted to do this, right? And they're doing this for me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I DM'd that second session and we finished the adventure. And then it became a thing where on the weekends, every other weekend, they'd come over and play with me. And for the longest, I thought they were just humoring me, right? Because it's something that they clearly saw that I enjoyed.
Right.
And it wasn't until a little later that I realized like they enjoyed it as much as I did,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, but but yeah. And then that that day that I finished that really long campaign that I just told you guys about, of having everybody sitting there and literally have to like, we all just kind of sat there for a little bit, just taking it in and really like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then the crying and this was, again, I didn't know about anything. I didn't know bleed was a thing. Now I do. I'm much more well informed. But again, this was somebody that had no idea what anything was and was doing this for the first time, right? I didn't have any resources or anything. But that and seeing them that become as invested as I had, and seeing them ask questions, um and some of them ended up making art for their characters months after we had already ended, because they were like, hey, like, I thought about it today, and do you think she would have done X or Y? Look, I drew her, right? And I'd be like, yeah, like she would have totally done that. And they still talked about their characters even months after. And but that day for me was the day that I was like, I want to do this again. I want to keep doing it. And I already have 15 different types of stories in my head.
Yeah.
But that was definitely a turning point for me. Yeah, that's when I started kind of opening up. And my favorite thing in the world is teaching new people how to
Okay.
play, or introducing new people to the TTRPG community. And so, because that first instance of them realizing, that realization of this is awesome, or this, that first time that they tell me, hey, I want to keep doing
Yes,
this.
I'm having
And it was
fun. I
because,
want to do this.
exactly, and it's kind of like I was able to do that for them,
Yeah.
right? Is so rewarding, and I crave that. And so I kept doing it.
Do you feel like that kind of links back almost to your first experience trying to get into the space where you had that really negative experience? Do you feel
Yeah.
like there's some link there too?
Oh, absolutely. I want everybody who, we all seek escapism for different things, right? Um, and some people really need it. And for some people, it's honestly the only thing that like helps them keep their shit together. And it's such, not just a very readily available coping mechanism, but it's one of the healthiest
Mm-hmm.
if you do it right. And I the like not having people who look for it not be denied it.
Yeah.
Right? Being able to bridge that gap for people that want it or need it or even just mildly interested in it to actually doing it and experiencing it and and becoming a part of the community.
Yeah.
Because there was nobody to bridge that gap for me.
Yeah.
It was very much oh, well, fuck you guys, I'm gonna do it for myself. I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
Right? And some people can't do that.
Yeah.
Right? And so I love when somebody comes up to me and they're like, "Hey, I saw on your Instagram this thing, like what is that?" Or like, "What do you do?" Or and I let me explain this to
Hold
you.
on, let me roll my sleeves.
Let me roll up my sleeves, right? And then being like, that actually sounds fun. Like, I'll be like, I'll run a one shot for you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't knock it till you try it. If you don't like it, you don't like it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I've never had somebody tell me like, "Oh, I'm never doing this again." um, and it's just, yeah, it does, I think, go back to that.
Yeah.
Now that I really think about it, yeah. Well, thank
Fuck
you,
those guys.
therapist.
Fuck those guys. So before we get ready to wrap up, I kind of want to just ask you, like, what's next for you? Like, where you've kind of like, you're everywhere right now. You're doing all these amazing things. You're telling these amazing stories. Is there something that is like gnawing at you that you haven't done yet that you want to kind of get to do?
One shots. I want to DM at least a mini campaign.
Yeah.
I really, really, really do. That is something that I think that's probably like what's going to be right there next. I'm also currently writing a small system, a horror system that I've been working on for a couple of months now. That I should be able to like finish soon and then play some one shots and torture people because it's horror. And so I'll be DMing some of those.
Okay.
But I think, yeah, publishing my first anything in the community, running at least a mini campaign or something a little bit longer, I think are the two things that are the soonest for me.
Yeah.
And then eventually, it will be running a full-length campaign, publishing my book, maybe actually starting my own channel.
Okay. All right. Amazing. I think that's going to bring us to the end of our interview. This has been such an amazing conversation, Yuri. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you and all the amazing things you're doing and what you're doing next.
Thanks to everybody who like stuck through just listening to me talk. My name is Yuri, that is Yuri, pronouns she, they. Y'all can go ahead and find me at Yuriandthebeast absolutely everywhere. I am, like I've said, an AP nomad, so you can literally probably find me everywhere. I think I did at least 26 different channels since I started in May. So go to your favorite channel and you might find me somewhere in there as a player. Now, as for the things that I am going to be doing, currently I am in a couple of long-term campaigns. We are going to soon be starting back up with Philly by Night, which I'm so excited about. And I am a regular there for one of the Anarch coteries. I get to be a bitch that can be boiled down to sex and motorcycles, essentially. So yeah, there you go.
Who doesn't want sex and motorcycles?
Debauchery. I am also doing a long-term campaign character called Morwen Sanatore, part of the Raven Court, over at Somebody's Heroes. She is a very misunderstood elven wizard who does a lot of very bad things for a lot of very good reasons. Honestly, it's hard to argue with the woman.
I don't believe you.
And she is cathartic and she is great, also kind of a bitch. I think that's how I let it out, really. You know? Gotta let
Just
it
gotta
out
feel these
somewhere. 'Cause
vibes.
yeah, because I can't do that IRL. But that is kind of what I'm really, really doing right now. I am also doing a mini campaign of Good Society. So if you like Bridgerton, check that out. Antonella and Lady Antonella Winslow, things as you would expect in that era, are getting love triangle-y and very, very dramatic. So if you're in for the drama and a good yum yum romance story, go ahead and check that out. We are almost done. I think we only have like 1 or 2 episodes left. But it's one of my favorite things. I had never played a game like that, not a single dice rolled. And so it's different for me, and I am loving it. Um, like I said at the very beginning of this, I do have a couple of things coming up immediately, but all of them are pre-recorded and I can't say anything. And it just hurts me physically because I want to yell it from the rooftops. Something I do think I can get away with saying is I am part of Rara's
Yeah.
new show from The Heart is a Dungeon, where we try to find out what happened in the Corner of Pleasure and West River. I don't know when my episode is coming up, but that was one of the most surreal things to ever happen to me, because I admire Rara and the space so much. So having them ask me to be in it was like, I will move my schedule around. I don't care what it is. Yes. And so that's, I think, one of the only pre-recorded tidbits that I can actually talk about. Everything else, you're going to have to wait and find out.
And best way to find out is on your socials.
Yes, I am the most active on Threads. I am trying to be now just as active on Blue Sky. Threads is kind of where I made my community, and it's really, really hard to leave that behind. But I am trying to be a lot more active on other socials as well. So Blue Sky and Threads right now is where you can see everything I'm doing. And if you're interested in my random 2 a.m. thoughts, those will be there too. If not, you can scroll through them. It's fine.
Okay, well, your card is posted in the chat. I do have one last question though, because you did kind of talk about all these different stories you're telling. How do you keep them separate? How do you remember all these different things?
I think
I don't know.
honestly, and this is gonna sound super weird and very out of character for me, but I think I was born to be a storyteller of some kind.
That's awesome.
I want to eventually write
Yeah.
a whole bunch of books. I want to TM as many adventures as I can. I want to keep consuming them, right? Reading, watching, just storytelling has become something so important and ingrained in me that I think my brain just kind of figured out how to do it. Do I know how? Absolutely not, but it is a thing.
Did you see yourself as that little kid watching anime on a Sunday morning being like, I'm gonna be a storyteller one day?
No, I thought I was going to work in an office my whole life.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Is this better or worse than an office?
This is so much better.
That's what we're gonna call over tonight, everyone. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. As far as the New Age Geek channel is concerned, you can catch us on Monday for an episode of Forging Fates, and then Thursday I'm interviewing Tabletop Misfits for another episode of Investigation Check. Interviewer v. Interviewer. And also this Sunday, Harley, your nose is so wet. This Sunday I'm going to be on. This Sunday, no, I wasn't calling you over. This Sunday I'll be on Records of the Realm in the big Tiamat charity fundraiser event. You can catch me there where I'll be playing Malkith, my character from my Records of the Realm show, Darkness Arc, but I'll be level 16. Not a big deal. That's all I've got. Yuri, is there anything else you got?
No. Keep watching this guy. He's great.
I love you, baby. That's all I've got. That's all you got. Remember, we love you, geeks. Good night.